The settlement on Draken Prime was never meant to be a battlefield. Marcus Chen crouched behind the overturned cargo container, pulse fire scorching the air above his head. The Krillian raiders had come without warning, their angular ships descending like metallic vultures upon the colony's eastern sector. Around him, colonists scrambled for cover while security forces tried desperately to establish a defensive perimeter. Fall back to the central hub. Lieutenant Sarah Morrison's voice crackled through his comm unit. We can't hold this position. Marcus didn't move. His eyes were fixed on the small creature huddled near the burning wreckage of a transport shuttle Hubanile Drakes. No larger than a house cat, its iridescent scales reflecting the firelight. The indigenous species was supposed to be extinct in this region, hunted to near extinction by poachers decades ago. The tiny dragon whimpered, a sound that shouldn't have carried over the chaos of battle but somehow reached Marcus's ears with perfect clarity. Its wing was bent at an unnatural angle, and purple blood seeped from a gash along its side. Chen, did you copy? Move out. Morrison's voice grew urgent. Marcus looked at the 30 meters of open ground between his position and the creature, 30 meters of kill zone where Krillian plasma weapons would cut him down before he made it halfway. Every rational thought screamed at him to retreat, to survive, to let nature take its course. The tiny dragon's golden eyes met his. Marcus ran. The first plasma bolt seared past his left shoulder, close enough that he felt his jacket smolder. The second struck the ground near his feet, throwing up chunks of scorched earth. He didn't slow down. His boots pounded against the red soil of Draken Prime. As weapons fire converged on his position from 3 different angles, he dove the last 5 meters, his body curling protectively around the small creature as he rolled behind the shuttle wreckage. Pain exploded across his back as a plasma bolt caught him, burning through his jacket and into flesh. Marcus bit back a scream, his arms instinctively tightening around the tiny dragon. The creature's scales felt impossibly warm against his chest. You absolute idiot, he muttered to himself. Assessing their position, the shuttle offered minimal cover, and the Krillians were advancing. He could hear their chittering communication, their 6 legs clicking against metal and stone as they surrounded the wreckage. The tiny dragon nuzzled against his burnt shoulder, and Marcus felt a strange tingling sensation spread from the point of contact. He glanced down, expecting to see the creature in distress, but instead found it looking up at him with what could only be described as gratitude. It's okay, little one, Marcus whispered, despite the hopelessness of their situation. I've got you. The tingling intensified, spreading from his shoulder across his back, down his arms. Marcus gasped as the pain from his plasma burn suddenly vanished, replaced by a warmth that felt like sunlight on skin. He twisted to look at his injured shoulder and froze. His skin was changing. Scales, fine, translucent scales were forming along his arms and shoulders, catching the light like opals. They weren't replacing his skin but seemed to be growing from it, a hybrid of human flesh and something decidedly not human. The burnt tissue was regenerating beneath the scales, healing at an impossible rate. The plasma bolt struck the wreckage inches from his head, snapping him back to the immediate danger. The Krillians were closing in, their weapons charging for a final volley. Marcus looked down at the tiny dragon, then at his scaled arms, and felt something ancient and powerful stir within his chest. The Drakis made a soft chirping sound, almost like encouragement. Marcus stood up. The Krillians fired. 3 plasma bolts struck him square in the chest and dissipated harmlessly against the scales that now covered his torso. The raiders' chittering turned confused, then alarmed as Marcus stepped into the open, the tiny dragon cradled in one arm. My turn, Marcus said, his voice carrying a resonance that hadn't been there before. He opened his mouth, and fire poured out, not metaphorically, actual firestream of golden flame that erupted from his throat with the force of a military-grade flamethrower. The Krillians shrieked as the flames engulfed their position, their chitinous armor proving far less resistant to fire than to plasma. Marcus swept the flames across the raiders' line, not with rage but with the calm precision of someone protecting their family. The scales continued spreading across his body, and with them came instincts he'd never possessed: a knowledge of how to angle the flames, where to strike, how to shield the vulnerable creature in his arms while wielding this devastating power. The Krillian raiders broke formation and fled toward their ships, their assault abandoned in the face of this unexpected threat. As quickly as it had begun, the battle was over. Marcus stood in the settling smoke, breathing hard, staring at his scale-covered hands in disbelief. The tiny dragon purred contentedly against his chest, its injured wing already looking better. Chen. Sarah Morrison sprinted toward him, her weapon raised but her expression more shocked than threatening. What in the name of what happened to you? Marcus looked down at the tiny dragon, then back at the lieutenant. The scales were beginning to fade from his skin, receding like a tide, though he could still feel them beneath the surface, ready to emerge if needed. I honestly have no idea, he admitted. I couldn't let it die. Sarah lowered her weapon slowly, studying the juvenile Dracus. The colonists have stories, she said quietly. Old stories from the first settlers. They said the Dracus could bond with those who showed them true compassion, that they would share their gifts with protectors. She looked at Marcus with newfound respect. I always thought they were just myths. Marcus felt the tiny dragon's heartbeat against his chest, synchronized with his own. The creature looked up at him with those golden eyes, and he understood without words that something fundamental had changed between them. They were bonded now, linked in a way that transcended species. Guess myths have to start somewhere, Marcus said. In the distance, the Carillion ships retreated into the amber sky of Draken Prime. The settlement was safe, at least for now. Marcus Chen, ordinary colonist turned dragon-bonded guardian, looked down at the tiny creature that had changed his life and smiled. Come on, little one, he said softly. Let's get you patched up properly. As they walked toward the medical facility, scales shimmered just beneath his skin, a reminder that humanity's greatest strength had always been the willingness to protect those who couldn't protect themselves, no matter the cost. And sometimes, the universe rewarded that strength in the most unexpected ways.